Okay, very good. So let's bring the meeting to order. The first order of business is to approve the amended agenda, and that would be what was originally notified a week ago with three changes. One is the Bang Bop liquor license moved from official actions to discussions. That is, there'll be a presentation, but we won't vote on it. And then we're adding the MacArthur High School holiday construction hours and the increase in mandatory car insurance to official actions. Those would be the three changes. I would move to adopt the agenda. And
Commissioner Horn, can I add a friendly amendment?
Yes.
I would like 4 to 5 minutes during the discussion period to give a formal update to the other commissioners on the trolley trestle bridge work that I've been doing.
All right. Well, that will be part of the commissioner updates.
Okay. I didn't know if it could move to formal discussions, but I'll just do it in commissioner updates. That's great.
If you like.
It doesn't matter. I'll just do it during commission updates.
Okay. All right. So I move that we approve the amended agenda.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Looks unanimous. 6 votes. Let's move to the updates. Officer McElwee.
Good evening, commissioners. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Well, good evening, commissioners. Let me take my screen off here. Good evening, commissioners. Good evening, everybody. Thank you for having us, as always, at every one of your meetings. I'm Tony McElwee. I'm your traffic officer, as well as your community outreach officer in PSA 205. And I'm going to first start off with the monthly PSA 205 crime report for the last 30 days within your community. We had 17 offenses reported. Out of the 17 offenses, there were 9 theft from auto reports taken, and the other ones were 8 theft reports, the general thefts. We didn't have any burglaries, and we had no stolen autos, which is a good thing. I'm going to start off with the theft from autos. The 4 locations that we saw targeted were, and if I'm going to start off with the first one of 4800 Massachusetts Avenue, we had 4 incidents of theft from autos. In fact, as a result of that, the commander requested that we put down a warning sign. You may have even seen it within the 4800 block of Mass Avenue, and it said, "Please remove valuables from your vehicle while it's parked." And what we're seeing is most of the victims of this crime were parked for just a short time, and they ran into one of the stores in a little strip mall like the Starbucks, and they only were in there for a few minutes, and they left something in plain view, and they smashed out the window and removed the item. The items that were basically taken were like backpacks, purses, computers. So as I say every month, please, I mean, I've been guilty of it myself. You know, when you stop for a little bit, you just run in, run out, and you leave something in plain view. But please try to remove any items, no matter how short you're in there. We also, other than with the sign that was out there, we also went into some of the merchants and asked the merchants that they could post some signs and just say, "Hey, make sure you don't leave anything, leave it in plain view." So we're trying those to help us out a little bit. The other area where we had 3 incidents was the 4300 block of Fordham Street. So you live around that area, they did target that area. And the 1900 block of 47th Street, and we had one on 4300 block of Garfield Street. As far as the thefts, most of the thefts involved packages from porches. We had some retail thefts that occurred. A couple of them were at CVS. For the package thefts, try to get those packages off your porch as soon as possible. If you can't, the second district has free Amazon boxes out in front. You can order there if you don't mind driving out to the second district. It's in a free area. It's right there, right in our balcony. Certainly take that opportunity to do that. Other than that, I do have some I have some real good news. I was notified today that MPD has arrested an individual involved in multiple burglaries and thefts. On Tuesday, February 4th, 2025, at approximately 13:44 p.m., that's 1:44 p.m., MPD's Criminal Apprehension Unit located and arrested 38-year-old Reginald Calloway of Southeast DC pursuant to a DC Superior Court arrest warrant, which was issued after the hard work of the second district detectives units. Out of this, the subject was connected to 4 burglaries, 2 thefts, and a destruction of property offense that occurred throughout 2024. In the PSA, there were 4 incidents. I'm going to go over the locations that he was involved in. A burglary he was involved in on Thursday, June 20th of 2024 at approximately 9:37 a.m. within the 4700 block of Foxhall Crescent, Northwest. So we closed that case out with this individual. The other burglary was on Monday, October 28th, 2024 at approximately 6:08 p.m. And this occurred in the 4400 block of P Street. And the other one was a theft 2 and a theft 1. The theft 1 occurred the 5600 block of MacArthur Boulevard back in August. And the theft 2 occurred on July 30th in the 4800 block of Rockwood Parkway. So I'm happy to announce that there's been an arrest for those 4 incidents that occurred in our PSA. Moving into traffic, and then I'll take all your questions. Conducted traffic enforcement in the 4600 block of MacArthur Boulevard for the month of January. As you know, we had 3 major events. We had President Carter's funeral, the January 6th 40-year anniversary, and the inauguration. But it's good luck would have it, I was out there in your PSA doing my traffic thing. So traffic enforcement continued. We worked 4600 block of MacArthur Boulevard. And for those of you who live back on Sherrier Place, Dorset, Carolina, and Potomac Avenue, there was a day where it was a Friday, I believe it was a Friday, where traffic was gridlocked in your neighborhood. And this was because there was a fatality accident out there on I think the Arlington Memorial Bridge, which was one of the areas that was cut down. So they sent them across MacArthur Boulevard, and they ended up in your neighborhood. I did write 7 tickets, and then I found it just easier just to make them go back out. So I kind of try to complicate things for the folks. And I did ask them. I said, "Why are you coming through here?" And the number one answer was, "I'm just following my GPS." And that was probably the case. But they all got stuck back there. And in light of that, I stepped up my enforcement. It hasn't been as bad since that day. So we'll keep that up. Also, 4100 block of Cathedral. We gave that special attention because of a complaint of speeding coming down the hill. We have several crosswalks, and there's a lot of folks that cross from the sidewalk into the park. Actually didn't get too many. I wrote 3 speeding out there, no high speeds. And that was last Monday I was out there. And we had 1 accident over there in Commissioner Elkins' area on January 2nd, the 3200 block of New Mexico Avenue. We had a 78-year-old driver, female driver. She was driving northbound, and excuse me for a moment. And she got her foot caught on the mat, meant to hit the gas pedal, the brake pedal, but hit the gas pedal. And she went up on the sidewalk, struck a tree and a sign, and the right passenger side of her struck a 79-year-old female. And that female fell to the ground and suffered a leg injury, which was minor, thank heavens. And she was transported to the hospital. And the driver was cited for failure to control her speed to avoid colliding. With that said, I'm open for questions, concerns, complaints.
Anyone have questions?
I have a question. This is about the burglar that you caught, who was caught with all those thefts and things like that. Um, Massachusetts Avenue clearly is having a problem. Do we think it's the same person? Do we have any video footage of that person?
I have a photograph of him, and I'll talk to you about that more. I know what you're leading to, and he's not connected to that one particular incident.
It's not, okay.
Um,
Just so everyone knows, I'm in hot pursuit of someone.
I hear you. I hear you. And I'm going to call you about that tomorrow, Commissioner.
Okay, great.
Because I looked at it closely, and we checked with my detective and a lieutenant about it, and we agree it's not the same subject. But I'm going to still get your input.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions?
Yeah, Officer McElwee, about the smash and grabs on like 4800 block of Mass, were those all within like this like 2 or 3 hours, or was it throughout the past couple of weeks? Was it one
Commissioner, I
person?
can give you, I got the reports right in front of me. January, that's a very good question too. January 31st, 12 p.m. was one of them on Mass Avenue. December 29th, so that was a different day, but that was around the same time, around 10:15. That was about an hour and a half before the one on January 31st. January 20th was another one. And January 16th, so different days.
And they were all like during the day?
All during the day, all between the hours of 10 a.m. and about 12:30 p.m.
Wow.
Prime time when people are going in to get their coffee, and we're putting a footbeat officer over there. Our crime suppression team is assisting us, and crime suppression is they focus in areas of such like this where we have incidents occurring, so they assist the patrol units focus in on those areas to assist us out. As I said, outreach has walked into the stores, make it like the gossip so everybody knows, hey, something's going on out there. So hopefully get these folks to get their stuff out of plain view.
I smell a sting operation.
I agree.
I just would like everyone to know that Commissioner Elkins is listening. He's waiting for his computer to update, and then he will be joining us.
Very good. Are there any more questions for Officer McElwee?
I see the Captain Hask has just popped in. I don't know if Captain, you have anything you'd like to talk about? I did put it out about the arrest of
Okay. That's basically what I wanted to talk about. My apologies. I've been trying to get on this computer here, and I used it for Zoom earlier today. For some reason, it is not cooperating in the least bit right now. So I'll get out this cell phone. But I just wanted to say that we did catch a big one in terms of our thefts and burglaries, and we're probably going to tie him to even more. He was rather prolific in our PSA. And if anybody has any questions about it, but it closes out thefts on Rockwood Parkway, MacArthur Boulevard, Foxhall Crescent, 4400 block of P as in Paul, a burglary. So it's definitely one that we hope will have quite an effect on crime this year. If I could also add, we've been getting a lot of theft from autos this year over in the area of Spring Valley. So if people can just let it be known that don't leave your valuables in the vehicle.
Very good. Any questions? Shall we move on? Okay, thank you so much.
All right, thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you, officers.
Let's go to our MOCR, Mr. Cox. I believe you're here.
Yes, hello everyone. Thank you for having me here, and it's nice to be with you all. Um, I have no direct updates, just a warning that we're expecting some snow tonight and freezing rain, and next week there might be some more snow, so just brace yourselves for that. Um, we haven't gotten any word from DPW yet on any plan, so I think that'll come as we get more info on the forecast. But if there is a significant amount of snow, then the Mokers will be out there with DPW once they start shoveling. And I just want to advise everyone, make sure that any business fronts or residential sidewalks are shoveled, salted. We do have through DPW a snow team hero. Sorry, through Serve DC, we have the snow team heroes. So for neighbors who aren't able to do shoveling or salting, you can, if you know them, you can sign up to be a volunteer and help out your neighbors to make sure that the sidewalks are clear. Quick update on any Christmas trees, if anyone has those still out there. DPW put out a statement recently that they are going around resuming collection of leaves and Christmas trees after the delay because of the previous snow. But with those, if they're put out and not picked up after 7 days, then please take a picture of it, flag it in the 311 on the website or in the app. I encourage you all to do that, and they'll come around and get those. Anything, if there's no resolution for a while, then feel free to reach out to me. But I think there might be some delay just because DPW is now gearing up for this next snow that's coming. I think I saw it might be 6 to 9 inches, so just be prepared for that. But I'm here for any questions.
Very good. Commissioner Nowak, you had your hand up first, I think.
Yeah, thank you. You answered my question about the Christmas trees. That is one that we've been hearing a fair amount from our neighbors. Sort of a related issue is the after the snow last time, there was a significant delay for some streets and some neighborhoods in terms of getting the recycling to get back on schedule. So can you speak to that at all? And if there are any operational changes that DPW might be making in light of additional snowstorms coming, sort of lessons learned that they might be putting in place to not have the buildups of recycling that they had last time.
Sure. So I will say, in talking with DPW, the delay in recycling was strategic. The main focus was trash, just because of the risk of vermin like rats and things like that. So the recycling was delayed intentionally. But I think that with the previous storm, I mean, we had a sort of a perfect storm because we had unprecedented, the largest storm since I believe 2016 in terms of snow, plus the funeral, plus the inauguration. So there were DPW trucks used in those events in terms of blocking roads and also tying up personnel. And then it was shoveling. So I think it was definitely something that, not that it caught them off guard, but it was definitely, they were dealing with a lot of fires. And so recycling was strategically deprioritized, just in terms of it's the only thing that can really wait over the snow and over the trash that needed to be collected.
Yeah.
I was flagging issues as they came up to our DPW contacts. I think with this next snow, now we haven't discussed it yet. As I mentioned, I think we're still waiting on the forecast before we have a Mokers DPW chat on what the plan is. I believe it will be probably along the same lines. in terms of strategically delaying recycling. They're going to do their best, and I'll be happy to flag any concerns up to them. But I will just say, in terms of the recycling, I would advise patience and just to expect that they're probably going to strategically delay it again in favor of snow and salting and trash. I will be happy to pass along any updates as we get them, though, in the this next week to come. I assume, due to last snow's practice, is that we'll have a meeting with them to sort of game out what the MOKR's role will be doing and what DPW is going to be doing. So any updates I get, I'm more than happy to pass along to everyone, all the commissioners here.
All right.
Okay, thank you.
Cox,
Commissioner Horn, just a quick follow-up before we move on, if I could. One of the things that I have been tracking is the leaf removal, which again, strategic delay, that makes complete sense to me. But what I want to put out there for DPW is that for as many years as I can remember, it feels like those streets that are in Group D end up getting their second fall pickup somewhere right around, cherry blossom season. So what can we do to either move up the schedule or accelerate it or something such that leaf removal happens at the time when leaves are falling and not, 6 months later?
Got
So
it.
that's
Okay.
not a today issue, but I know that you're planning now for the fall, that DPW is already working on planning for next season. And I want to get that out there, that this is a continued complaint that I hear from folks.
Okay, yeah, I'll be happy to ask that and then send you any update I get from our DPW folks.
Thank you.
we have a lot of questions for you. Commissioner
Sure.
Blumenthal?
Yeah, I want to follow up on Commissioner Nowak's question about the recycling. I think that we all, I know I shouldn't speak for anyone else, but my sense is that the other commissioners, and I can certainly say the constituents I talk to, understand the reasons for the strategic pause in recycling and understand it may not have occurred to them, but understand the reasons for it. What's frustrating to me and was frustrating to my neighbors was I'll just say, lack of communication for 3 weeks about what the status was. There was fairly clear messaging, if you could find it, from DPW the first week, the week of the 6th through the 10th, about recycling being suspended and everything, and so on. But the messaging, the official messaging the following week and every week after that said it had been resumed. There was nothing about whether it had been delayed, about how long it would continue to be delayed. And as a result, in our neighborhoods, because we didn't know, in fact, in some cases, we were told, leave it out on the street because we may be following up late. We had blue cans and stacks of cartons and all the rest in the street for 3 to 4 weeks. And I just, we communicated, I'm aware that you were aware of these problems and we're passing them on, but we need a way to communicate better to the people of our districts what the situation is. Just tell us it's not going to get picked up this week, and I think people will roll their cans back and be patient. So
Got you. Well, I'll be happy to bring that up to our DPW folks, and I'll suggest to them that for the MOKR's at least, because we were in the same boat in terms of, we were trying to get answers and they were giving us the same thing. So I'll go back to tell them, hey, just, give it to us straight. What can I tell the folks? Is there going to be another delay this week or not?
right.
So I'll be happy to pass that along and give any updates once they reply to me.
Commissioner Colon Roosevelt?
I mean, Commissioner Blumenthal got my first question. I think the lack of communication was just really annoying for a very long time. I have a question about the snow shoveling, because I've had multiple residents reach out about, some people's sidewalks not being shoveled. And I know that there is that Snow Team Hero program, but it seems like you had to apply back in October to be able to get that service. So what can residents who are unable to, shovel their sidewalk or might not be home or and like didn't apply to this program in time, what can they do?
So they can actually, if they reach out to 311, they can be put through to the to Serve DC and the Snow Team Heroes to apply to get on the list. Although the way that the list works is they try to have a sort of geographical limit for volunteers within 3 blocks or so, so that people don't have to go very far to volunteer and help shovel other people's walks. The issue that's run into is that there aren't enough volunteers within that area. So there are sometimes people who don't get matched up with a volunteer.
And so what should they do? Just
Well, what I did after the previous snow and then the second snow that brought in some ice is I went around to seniors who were on that list, but who had not been, basically doing a checkup to see if they had had their walks shoveled. And then I flagged it up to our leadership, who then put it out to, I believe it was to DPW. They put it out, and I haven't actually gone back. I didn't go back afterwards to see, to like do a double check to see if then they had shoveled that. I think by the time that I had made that notice that there were sidewalks that hadn't been shoveled, it was already starting to melt. But I can run it up to leadership and say, in this case, if there are folks who aren't matched up, and once I flag them, what can be done. In some cases, I did go out and I did shovel. There were other cases though where the ice was too thickly set, which that was things that I flagged as higher priority to DPW because they actually have the tools that are able to break that up. But I'll be happy to ask about that and get some answers before the next snow, or at least try to, so that we can be prepared for folks who, if they're not matched up, they'll be able to have their walk shoveled before letting the ice set in.
All right, Commissioner Alkins.
I'd like just to add a couple of thoughts. I was in a meeting last night where this general subject was being discussed, and two ideas came forward, which I put forward. One is, I don't know how high school students get credit for community service. I know they're looking for hours. I'm not sure, but I wonder whether here in 3D we might be able to supplement the volunteers in some way. I'm not sure how we'd organize it, but to try to give high school students the opportunity to gain some service and also provide some service to those who are not able to shovel it themselves. The other thought that came up, and I'm not sure how we would handle this, Owen, but the ability to get some salt that would be available to essentially sprinkle on these sidewalks that became so icy that they were difficult to shovel. I'm not an expert in the chemistry of whether that salt would be sufficient at that point in the freezing, but those are two additional sort of self-help things that we should keep in mind, particularly if we have more serious snow that's coming. Thank you.
Okay, those are good questions, and I'll be happy to pass those along. I particularly like the high school student supplementation idea.
I have my own question, but I think maybe Commissioner Blumenthal is going to be necessary here. My understanding is that the notifications from DPW are on X or various places, and this makes no sense to me. I mean, it should be on their website or some official channel. I mean, we need to be able to find it.
Yeah.
And I assume when the X feed, when it was Twitter, was set up, was a publicly accessible website. You now have to have a login in order to see it.
And to add insult to injury, it's my understanding that the messaging that was on the website and that which was on X were inconsistent during the last storm. So people who did look at both of those channels got conflicting information.
Thank you, Commissioner. I left that out. There was an announcement on the second week, this would be on about the 13th or 14th, that regular recycling and trash had resumed. Similar announcements the following week. Nothing that said that there was a strategic pause continuing beyond that first week. So our constituents were acting, those who were aware of it, who were wheeling out their cans to the street, were doing what DPW told them to do.
So I do want to clarify that there wasn't an official announcement of a strategic pause. That's my own phrasing.
It was a freeze. That's a joke.
Mr. Fox, we're not hearing you.
He strategically paused.
We'll just give it another 15 seconds and then move on, because we've done this topic pretty well.
Yeah.
Okay. Why don't we move on to Councilmember Fruman's office? Is Hannah here?
Hello, sorry, I got disconnected.
Oh. So I think we were pretty well done with that. Just those are our concerns, and if you'll pass
Sure.
it on, we'd appreciate it.
Yep, will do.
Very good. Is someone here from Councilmember Fruman's office? Okay, I think the answer must be no. Let's move on to the Department of Transportation. Is Mr. Pinheiro here?
I'm certain he's not.
Oh, okay. All right. Let's move on to local universities and colleges. Anyone want to speak from American? No? Okay. Let me, Kevin Days is not available today from George Washington, but he asked me to pass along that there is a basketball game on February 15th, which the president of George Washington is inviting people from the community. And I put in the chat a hyperlink that takes you to an application to get tickets for free and participate in an event connected with this basketball game. So if you're interested, take a look, click the hyperlink and see if you're interested. How about Georgetown? Is Corey here? Yes. We're not hearing you, Mr. Peterson.
Sorry about that. Sometimes my computer goes to the wrong phone. But for those that don't know me, my name is Corey Peterson. I'm our AVP for community engagement and local government at Georgetown. The updates, just one, I know we're talking about snow and thought I would relay that our Office of Neighborhood Life continues to provide shovels and salt to our students that live in the neighborhood. So we have what we call winter houses. There are 2 of them in the Foxhall neighborhood. We communicate those to our students, and we do advise them when these storms come through to go out there and toss a little salt down just in case. And certainly if you have any questions or concerns about any student rental properties, if there's anything out there, please let me know. Commissioner Simkowitz had texted me and asked if I could give a brief update on the utility project. And JP, I was able to find a quick update on this. For those that don't know, the university is underway. We've got a large utility project that we are doing on Healy and Copley Lawn to restore about 2 miles worth of old piping, moving from steam to hot water. And it's for a number of reasons. One, we just continue to have a lot of water outages and steam outages on campus. So the piping is, some of it's 80 years old. I'll drop a link in the chat so folks can see what this project looks like. If you've ever walked on our campus, you've definitely experienced it. The current phase, we're in phase 2, which is mostly on Copley Lawn and part of the red brick area near the ICC. We expect that to wrap up mid-April, and then they will restore everything so that we can have commencement. Everything will go on for commencement reunion weekend, and then we will promptly rip it back up to continue on with the project. But at least through mid-April is where we're on with this part of the project. It will extend out into the neighborhood. It will come out through 37th and O. It will go down south on 37th Street and then onto N behind 1789 and then end up in the Walsh building. So we've got a lot yet ahead of us. It's about another year and a half, maybe 2 years.
Very good.
And then it's in the chat.
Anyone have any questions for Mr. Peterson? Questions?
Yeah, I'll ask something. Is that part of the plan to redo the lawn, the grassy area from flooding as well?
Yeah.
Because I know that was in the interim plan.
Yeah, it will also address what we call the Copley lake that comes out there and the ducks that join us after a rainstorm. Yeah, it will fix all of that as well.
Perfect, thanks. And thank you for taking care of the rat problem. I haven't seen one rat in months on the Georgetown campus. So
stop putting it out there.
Just added us, JP. Just added us.
I appreciate that, but let me know if you're still finding them.
Very good. Any other questions? Let's move to anyone speaking for Wesley at this time. Seeing none.
Very quickly, Chuck, should we announce the CLC meeting? I'm going to look this up. So the Community Liaison Committee, which is a committee that is formed by the Zoning Commission, has planned Wesley has planned a CLC meeting, and I have it, no, that's last year. Thursday, February 20th, and it's going to be in person, I believe, starting at 6 p.m. So if anyone is on and they're interested in the Wesley Community Liaison Committee meeting, which is open to the public, it's Thursday, February 20th.
Very good. Let's move on to other institutions. Mr. How about the German Embassy?
Yes, hello.
Mr. Speecher is here.
Yes, hi, good evening. My name is Kai Speecher. Unfortunately, I can't get my camera running, but at least you can hear me, I hope.
Yes.
We can.
Yes. Again, Kai Speecher, I'm the head of administration of the German Embassy. And as you all know, we have this big construction going on, our new parking lot construction. And there was, in the last weeks, I would say around 3 weeks now, we had lots of earth movements, lots of trucks going in and out and waiting there. And this led actually to one complaint from a neighbor. And a neighbor living in Reservoir Road, and she said that there were trucks lining up very early in the morning already, and when they were standing there waiting there, they let their engines run, and of course the noise and the fumes and everything, and even I think one of them was standing in front of the driveway of the house. So yeah, we reacted immediately. We instructed all the drivers to turn off their engines while they're waiting, and that they had to follow the local regulations. Of course, you can't stand there with the truck and just let your engine run. Also, we put in place more traffic flaggers. They went along and checked the trucks which were waiting. And if one still had his engine running, these are all different companies. And so if one had his engine running, they made sure it turned it off, and that also no driveways were blocked. So we made sure this stopped, and it did stop, and now at the end all this work has finished. So all the earth movements and all this high number of trucks, this has stopped now, and so we go to the next stage. But after that, there was no problem anymore, and I hope we can go on like this. So it's running good. Of course, there was the interruption a little bit with the snow, and now they are fearing that with again cold weather, it might be interrupted again a little bit next week. They announced very cold weather. There's now starting a phase where concrete work has to be done, and you need certain temperatures for this. And let's see how it works out. So that's so far the update from the embassy.
That sounds great. Progress. Does anyone have any questions? Very good. Let's move on to commissioner updates. Let's go in reverse numerical order, because I know that Commissioners Duncan and Elkins have things that might spark community response. So can we start with Commissioner Simkowitz?
Thanks for putting me on the spot. I was so I have one update. I haven't talked about crime recently because I think things have been trending really well. However, I was down at the Georgetown Theater about 2 weeks ago, and I witnessed a man who was clearly suffering from some sort of mental distress, beating a taxi cab driver up. I intervened. The guy kind of ran away. I intervened by yelling. He ran away, and fortunately, MPD apprehended him. It took 6 officers to apprehend the man. Mm. And in the process, one of the officers had his glasses broken, and the guy, apparently, I didn't see this, tried to grab one of the officers' guns. So, you know, we still have problems, but I think things are trending better, fortunately, thanks to Mayor Bowser and the police really making a focus. And Councilmember Pinto has done a good job with her, I forgot the name of the act, but it's a crime act that she introduced and she's been pushing. So that's all I have for a report, and I don't have any community issues, fortunately.
Very good. Commissioner Nowak?
I have 2 items of note. One is your regular reminder that for those residents who are interested in applying for admission to a DC selective school or charter school, my school DC is open through March 1st for grades, I think it's K through 8. The high school deadline passed on February 1st, but for those families with younger children, my school DC, and you can get set up to get into the lottery for the school of your choice there. The second item is notice that there is a community health survey, which is being conducted by a partnership between Sibley and Howard University Hospital. They say that the assessment will take approximately 20 minutes to do if any our residents are willing to complete a survey online, and I will post the link for that in the chat. And that is all.
Very good. I am next. There has been considerable concern about the lack of crossing guards on MacArthur between on Dana and to a lesser extent at Arizona, but both places. And what there has been an interest in getting more crossing guards, and so much interest that a workshop that I was going to publicize has been canceled. And instead, I put into the chat, near the top of the chat, you'll see about crossing guards, that there is a hyperlink that can take you to a page if you're interested in being a crossing guard. And we really could use crossing guards at MacArthur and Dana and MacArthur and Arizona, if anybody has that ability to fill in that job. And that's all I wanted to say. Let's move to Commissioner Blumenthal.
Thank you, Commissioner. One brief update. I had an email from a constituent who asked about the possibility of adding a stop sign and or striped crosswalk at the intersection of Macomb and Carolina Place. For those who don't know it, that's right across from the Carolina Park. It is a sort of a T intersection from Carolina onto Macomb. It is also a place where, thanks to our gridlock and cut-through driving, drivers race at usually the direction of Waze or Google Maps, race from MacArthur to Carolina to try to beat the traffic. And they have whipped around that corner at all hours of the day. In fact, there was a pedestrian hit in the last year. And someone correct me if I'm wrong. I think that was my predecessor in this.
Yes, Commissioner Davis.
So that strikes me as a very good idea. It will be an education for me on the process of requesting a stop sign, and I'll report back and work with Commissioner Duncan and our Transportation Committee on moving that forward. And other than that, a thank you to Officer McElway for his attempt to stem the tide of the gridlock on that Friday or whatever day of the week it was. I actually witnessed his effort. I live very close to there, walked halfway down the block, thought I'd say hello, realized as he was in a very heated conversation with someone that was not a good idea. And on my way back up the hill, at least 3 drivers asked me when the traffic would move so they could make their illegal to our neighborhood. And I pointed to the sign that was staring them in the face, and it was a bit of dissonance for everyone involved. Anyway, thank you, Officer McElway.
Thank you. Commissioner Colin Roosevelt.
I just want to highlight what Officer McElwee said about people in Spring Valley, especially around Millie's and CVS, having stuff stolen from their cars. Just don't leave valuables in like plain view in your windows. I know you're only going in for a little bit, but it seems to be happening. They're going to be patrolling the area more, so hopefully that'll be helpful. But for now, just to be safe, take anything that's really important.
Very good. Commissioner Duncan.
Yes, I have a few announcements. First, the Transportation Committee is meeting on February 27th from 2 to 3:30. It is open to the public. Hope to see you there. Sibley Hospital has put out a message on the community listserv that they are going to do a community meeting on February 13th at 7 p.m. I will post information about that in the chat that they sent me. I have asked them to distribute these flyers to the neighbors who live across the street. And I am going to email the neighbors that have contacted us along Sherrier about this meeting. And I think this will be a good step for Sibley to address the neighbors' concerns and to also give us a fuller context of what they are trying to do when we vote on their behavioral health unit. I would like to stress that this is a Sibley hospital run meeting, not an ANC. I am just here to help get the word out to the neighbors, but it will be posted many times on the listserv. So we're hoping anyone who's interested in this is going to be able to come. My last item is about the preservation of the trolley trestle bridge, the Foundry Branch Trestle Bridge. For those of you who don't know, this is the old trolley bridge that crosses the gorge of Glover Archibald Park from our neighborhood, starting down near Foxhall and where MacArthur and Foxhall kind of meet there, and going across the gorge into Georgetown. The bridge has been closed for a number of years. There is a push by WMATA, believe it or not, owns it, to tear it down. So this is also something people should know. Glover Archibald Park is National Park Service land. The bridge is owned by WMATA. if the bridge is ever going to be used for pedestrians to cross it, WMATA is not going to do that. They're going to have to transfer it to DDOT to do that. Right now, the gorge is closed to hikers, day walkers, everything from the entrance of Canal. If you walk into Glover Archibald Park from there, you will be met with a gigantic fence. The bridge itself is also closed off to pedestrian traffic. There was a person who walked across maybe in the early 2000s and he died. He fell through the slats. So the National Park Service right now is seeing no reason to preserve it. This whole thing about what to do with the bridge has been going on for a very, very long time. Corey Peterson is still here, so if he wants to turn on his camera, he's welcome to do that. But Georgetown University has convened a group of neighbors from both sides of the bridge. From the ANC3D, Commissioner Nowak and I are there. There's commissioners from 2E on the other side of the bridge. From the Palisades Community Association, Nick Keenan is a representative coming to these working groups, we're calling it. And Conrad DeWitt is coming from the FCCA. There are representatives from the Community Association of Georgetown, also known as CAG, and there is also the co-chair of the Georgetown University Community Partnership. He is also on this committee, and we are hoping to come up with a statement that everybody can sign on to. I would like to share my screen. I had sent around the statement to us a while ago, but there are some comments, and I want to read some possible language and get some feedback from some commissioners in this public forum for me to go back to this group. We're at the stage now where we're all going back to our individual groups, and we're asking what people think. So I am going to do this very quickly. Okay, so scrolling up here, like I said, this is a draft. This goes through the history. There's some funding for planning restoration thing. None of this has been disputed. But when we get down here to the blue language, there is some draft language, and this is from a group on the other side of the bridge, that says this. Specifically, we are unified in our support for a walkway and cycle path utilizing the trestle bridge. If and only if, after the eastern end of the trestle bridge, the path turns south and connects with a walkway and or cycle path that is not north of M Street Northwest. We are in agreement that a pedestrian and bike path should not run through Georgetown University or on the residential streets or sidewalks of Georgetown or Burleith, which are already congested and are heavily traveled, including by pedestrians. We look forward to working with DDOT on such a plan. And instead of that paragraph, there is also some possible alternative language that is much more vague that says, the final pathway of the east side of the bridge should be determined by DDOT and professionals based on safety, utility, existing conditions, and costs, along with significant input from Georgetown University Partnership and neighboring communities. And then there's possible language that we don't discuss the path at all, and we just focus on preserving the trestle bridge. I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and I would like to get a sense of what this commission thinks that we're going to be asked to be voting on this when the statement comes through. And I was just looking for some comments. You can also send them to me. This is not a vote, but I wanted to share this in a public forum. Commissioner Simkowitz.
Well, thank you, first of all, for attending this. I've attended many of the meetings around the trolley trestle. In fact, I went in person to the ANC2E meeting on Monday night to express my desire that they get more active in pushing for this. They haven't been, in my opinion, except for the Georgetown students on the commission. But maybe that will change in the coming year, hopefully. I do not like the idea of the trail not ending in Georgetown. I don't know how they're going to do this if it ends in that horrible tunnel. I certainly wouldn't want to use that. I think people from your neighborhoods in the Palisades to my neighborhood in Foxhall Village want to use this trail to access the town of Georgetown and use the very natural terminus point on Prospect, and I think it's St. Mary's Place, where it used to end. And remember, my mom and dad grew up here, and they remember using the trolley when it was in operation. And I actually walked out there with them. I said, "Where did it end?" I always thought it ended on M Street at the car barn because that's where they have the tracks. It ended up on the top. It ended on Prospect Street, which I never knew. I mean, as long as I've lived here, until I actually asked him a direct question. So that would be the natural terminus of the Trolley Trestle Trail. And if the Trolley Trestle Trail doesn't end there, the only way, according to this letter, is that it would end going through that tunnel, which is scary, dark. My mom was riding a bike one time, and she slipped because it was all mossy, and she got a horrible infection. I don't like the trail ending there, so I think that you should fight and push for the natural ending point on Prospect and St. Mary's.
So let me ask you this question. I am actually trying to build a coalition here of people on the other side who I feel like saving the trestle is the number one thing. I would like the language to be much more vague because in the grand scheme of things, DDOT, if they agree not to tear this down, they're going to be the ones who kind of decide where this goes. Keeping things up above is also very expensive. They did put new lights and they have cleaned up the tunnel. I've been down there recently, but I see Commissioner, but thank you for those comments. That's very, very helpful, but perhaps we could be thinking in our heads, are we going to need to have something that says, no, it has to be here to sign on to a statement, or would we allow something to be much more vague and we sort of punt those questions down the road?
Well, I'm gonna trust your judgment on this. And again, thank you for going to this. I've gone to so many of these meetings,
I know.
and it's torturous sometimes. But keeping it ending in Prospect is what people in my neighborhood, and I suspect people in your neighborhood want, because we don't necessarily want to go down to the river. I mean, there's other ways to get down to the river, for us than that. I think we want to end up in the town of Georgetown to go shopping, to go, just take a walk. There's a lot of stuff that we do, north of M Street, and it seems like the people in Georgetown don't want us there, and it feels really bad, like we're second-class citizens, that they don't want us down there. But that's certainly the way that I feel we are being portrayed, and I think that to the extent you can. Sometimes you have to fight, and this might be one of them. But then again, we don't want to overplay our hand, because if we do that, the bridge gets torn down, and then we have no trail ever, and it's dead, infinity. And the National Park Service, to my belief, has always said once the trestle is knocked down, they will never let us build another one, and that therefore for infinity that the trail would never be built. So we have to be sensible about this, and I trust that you use your judgment accordingly.
I agree with everything you're saying. If anyone watches Parks and Rec, I think it's like Eagleton Pawnee sometimes with these discussions.
Well, I think a lot of people know that I've been to over 200 national park units out of the 400 and something. And so I'm a very big proponent of the National Park Service in general, but I have not been happy with them on many things with regard to the park that's literally right in my backyard. And I don't think they're a very good neighbor here. It's a hard tightrope that you have to walk on, and it's a tightrope that if we overplay our hand, we will lose. And so that's why you have to be very careful on this working group.
Thank you. Commissioner Blumenthal, I saw your hand first.
Thank you. First of all, to your direct question, I favor working for the vaguer language. I think this is this letter marks the sort of beginning of a process. And again, I said it on our last meeting, but thanks to Corey Peterson for convening this meeting and for being leader in this effort. And it's the beginning of a process where I think we can get to a community consensus, community meaning 3D, 2E, Georgetown, on the best way to preserve this asset to all of our communities. One of the reasons why I think having an ongoing process would be positive is that that tunnel, which is everything Commissioner Sinkowitz says it is, maybe there's some better lights, I haven't been there recently, but it is the way the Foxhall neighborhood and Georgetown potentially connect to the Capitol Crescent Trail and a bike network that covers all of downtown DC. It is the only access point at the sort of easternmost point of the Crescent Trail, other than getting to Wisconsin Avenue. And, you know, we have on the Transportation Committee on which we served, we looked at a now 10-year-old report that DDOT did on Canal Road that included recommendations to upgrade that tunnel, of which lights were only one of, I think, 4 or 5 different recommendations, one of which could conceivably be a better entrance than the not ADA compliant, very steep sidewalk that is impassable when it's icy and impassable for most, you know, for all but the most strong cyclists. You have to get off your bike and walk it. And if we're going to move the Park Service to do that update, we need my opinion is we need the entire community, and we would need Georgetown behind that effort. And I think that would be a win for the neighborhood and for the students and faculty of Georgetown. So I'd push for making that process go forward.
Thank you, Commissioner Nowak.
Like the others, I am very supportive of the more vague language. I think that it allows us to save the trestle now and live to fight the fight about where the path will be on another day. And it gives us time to build that consensus. Just some additional color commentary for those who have not been involved in these discussions. Our colleagues in Georgetown, their response to all of the things that we've just described about the tunnel is you can walk or cycle along Canal Road, which for any of us who have done that can tell you that you're taking your life in your hands with vehicles, with mudslides, with all sorts of terrors that would happen. It's really not a pedestrian or cyclist friendly path. And so that is their sort of knee-jerk response when we say that we want access to the neighborhood of Georgetown from the western side of the university. So I think that we might need to soften the language a little bit more, Commissioner Duncan, in the sense that if I were someone on the side of the issue that says, you know, I don't want more pedestrians and cyclists coming into Georgetown, the way that language is written leaves that door wide open because we just need somebody from DDOT to say that's the right answer. Now, amongst us girls, we know that DDOT will do what they do, but I think in terms of the letter, we might just say, we will address this at some later date and really just go full stop for Save the Trestle Bridge. And we'll deal with any other issues in a separate forum. So that'd be my recommendation.
I would also like neighbors to know that there is an effort afoot. There's some pricing that has been done to make a scaffolding, like a covered walkway underneath the bridge so that the park can be open to hikers. And this effort is sort of going along with that effort. And I'm hoping that we can get with the Rock Creek Park Conservancy that National Park Service is weird. The superintendency under the National Park Service, of which Glover Archibald Park is a part of, is Rock Creek Park. But all of the money that is spent in that superintendency goes to actual Rock Creek Park. but Battery Kemble Park and Glover Archibald Park in our neighborhood are part of that superintendency. So I'm hoping to get with the Rock Creek Park Conservancy, which is a privately funded thing, to maybe put some kind of walkway so that we can open the gorge to hikers. Chuck, did you have your hand up?
No, everyone has said what I was going to say. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Keenan, who also had his hand up, indicated the same thing. So I am done with my update. Thank you, Commissioner Chairman Horn.
Thank you. Commissioner Elkins.
In the interest of time, I will skip for tonight. Thank you.
All right. This is a time when community members can raise an issue that's not on the agenda. If it's something on the agenda, please wait until it comes up and speak then. But if you have something that's not on the agenda, raise your hand. And if you do, we will ask you to keep it to 2 minutes. But I do not see any hands, and that is fine because we have plenty to do. Let's move on to the presentation under discussions about the Bang Pop liquor license. Commissioner Noah, do you want to explain?
Yeah, thank you. So in just a minute, I'm going to hand off the mic to Mr. J.B. Bach, who is the owner of a new dining establishment seeking to do business in the neighborhood. The restaurant would be in the space that many neighbors may know most recently as European Market, and prior to that as Christina's Cafe. It is located at the far south end of MacArthur Boulevard in the same building, complex that the Fitzgerald leasing office is. So you may be familiar as you come down MacArthur, seeing the Fitzgerald office, and then the new restaurant would be off to the side there. So Mr. Bach and I have met and have talked, and this is the first in 2 presentations that you'll see. So today is the presentation about the business and just a little bit of background there. And then in the coming weeks, we'll be working on a settlement agreement, as the ANC does. The reason for this is because the restaurant is seeking a liquor license, which will go before ABCA, the Alcoholic Beverage and Cannabis Authority. And in order, one of their stages is to solicit ANC opinion on that liquor license. And so it has been the tradition of this ANC that we, excuse me, enter into a memorandum of understanding or a settlement agreement with the businesses, just saying about these are expectations of one another, and so that the restaurant dining establishment is a good neighbor and good member of the community. And we set down what our expectations are, and then those become part of the operating protocols that are contingent for the liquor license. So with that, Catherine, can we please spotlight YB Bach? Oh, there he is. Okay, welcome. I'm going to hand off to you.
Thank you so much for that, Commissioner. Hi, I'm YB, and I'm here to introduce my family restaurant, Bang Bob, which, as Commissioner just mentioned, is located at 4418 MacArthur Boulevard, previously occupied by European Market. The last operator closed the restaurant without notifying EPCA, and thus the license was rescinded, which prompted a new filing of the application of this terrific opportunity to present our case to you. So Bang Bob is a family restaurant with 3 generations of women in my family working in the kitchen. That's my mom, my sister, and her daughter, or my niece. And they've been in the restaurant business throughout most of their adult lives. Bang Bob is part Korean restaurant. We serve Korean barbecue, bibimbap, Korean noodle dishes, seafood pancakes, casserole, and so forth. And part Japanese, serving sushi, California rolls, udon, donkasu, and so forth. We offer healthy and tasty, somewhat exotic dining option here in Palisades, and we're thrilled at this opportunity to enhance the local dining scene. In addition to selling food, we want to contribute to this community by engaging and being part of this community. I understand there are 2 citizens community associations, and I have reached out to both. I've exchanged emails with Anne from PCA. We were actually supposed to meet earlier this afternoon, but she had something come up, and that was pushed back to next week. I met with Heather Gustafson from Palisades Main Street earlier this morning, a wonderful lady, and she gave me a very warm welcome and support for our family business. So these interactions are meaningful for us in that it's not just selling food for us and receiving payments for goods and services, but we're very interested in becoming a part of each other's lives and getting to know each other in a special way. In terms of creating local jobs, I like to hire all of our employees from Palisades, but it's probably unrealistic. Heather suggested earlier that I reach out to the MacArthur High School, and she thought that there might be a lot of high school students that might be interested in working part-time, and so I might look into that. I'd like to think that we are bringing cultural diversity and enhancement to this area by offering Korean and Japanese cuisine. I know that there are 2 Chinese restaurants across from Black Salt and an old Japanese restaurant, Kabuki, but I believe we're bringing something that's unique. In short, our aim is to become an integral part of this community fabric and contribute to the well-being and thriving of this community. Just want to talk a little bit about alcohol service. So our family is operated other restaurants, not in DC, but in Maryland and Virginia with ABC licenses. And so we understand the importance of the responsible handling of the alcohol. We're committed to safety and compliance in serving alcohol and plan to make it mandatory for all alcohol servers to complete online tips training program and obtain certifications, and make sure all of us comply with the local and federal laws and regulations regarding alcohol service. This training equips our staff to identify signs of intoxication and handle situations involving underage or excessive drinking. We will implement strict ID verification protocols to prevent underage drinking, and our staff will monitor customers throughout their stay to identify and address any signs of overconsumption. We will also establish clear policies for staff to intervene when necessary, including offering transportation options or refusing service to overly intoxicated patrons. We will have a zero tolerance policy for serving alcohol to minors or visibly intoxicated individuals. And a clear signage will be displayed outlining our commitment to responsible service. Noise and disturbance control, something we are going to be keen on. There's going to be no loud music in the restaurant. We realize that this is a very respectable neighborhood, but there are college and university students in the area. So we treat our customers with courtesy and respect, and will be firm when we need to in case of presence of elevated risks. In closing, I am and our family is extremely excited about this opportunity, and we look forward to serving some tasty food and becoming part of this wonderful community. We will ensure all of our employees share the same commitment and the highest level of responsibility when it comes to food and alcohol handling. I'll take any questions.
Are there any questions? Yes, Commissioner Simkowitz.
Hi, thank you. This used to be my single member district. Now I'm across the street. I've not heard one complaint about the use of the restaurant, whether Christina's or the European market. In fact, to the contrary, people loved the space. They loved having a restaurant there. And I don't anticipate that there's going to be any problems with noise or things like that. I wish you all the best, and I can't wait to go invite people there because we don't have any restaurants in my district except for Jetty's, which kind of gets old after a while, even though it's good.
Thank you so much.
Commissioner Duncan?
I have a question about the operation. I'm assuming you will have some in dining. Are you also going to promote like sort of a takeaway business where
Oh,
people might be able to?
yes, absolutely.
Okay. All right. Wonderful. People are going to be really excited.
Yeah, that'll be welcome. Any other questions?
When is the opening date planned? Do you know?
So the official grand opening will line up with whenever we receive beer and wine license. But prior to that, we are planning a soft opening. Tentatively, let's say the end of this month.
Another thing I would suggest is that you talk to the Foxhall Association, FCCA, and get the word out because honestly, I would tell people about Christina's or the European market, and they would said, "Where is it?" And I had to explain. So we want you to succeed, and in order to do that, I think the word has to get out. And
Absolutely.
maybe put.
I have actually I've reached out to both members of Foxhall. Haven't heard back, but I'll try again.
And I think flyers in the neighborhood would be good because people honestly didn't know that they were there, and that's not a good thing. I think people want options here, and you're providing such an option for everybody.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Hearing none, let's move on to official actions.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The first one is the field school athletic field. Commissioner Simkowitz, do you have a motion and we'll get a second?
I do. I hope that you will give me a second on this. I don't have a good track record on that at this commission, but I'm introducing a motion to approve a letter that gives our approval of the field schools campus plan amendment, for lack of a better word. They want to do some field improvements. They want to, put things around their campus, such as retaining walls to protect the environment. And I understand that they may be here to answer any questions if anybody has any. And before I go any further, I'd like to know if there's a second.
Is there a second? Commissioner Duncan seconds. Please go on, Commissioner Simkowitz.
Thank you. Commissioner Elkins, who I believe had this in his district before I moved in there at the last term, has been working very closely with me. We've gone over to the field school, talked to neighbors. We've talked to the field school employees. We've had nothing but positive interactions with them. I've had some questions. They've been very helpful in answering them. I asked, and this doesn't just go for this school, but for a lot of schools, they previously have never had the ability to lease their fields out to third-party groups such as Stoddard Soccer or any other community groups. And while they previously were not able to do that, I, based on some requests that I've had from community groups, wanted to get those restrictions lifted. So in this particular case, I asked the field school if they would be considering opening it up to outside groups, and they fortunately said yes, and I thank them for that. And then the only thing that I wanted to do is make sure there's no neighborhood opposition, and both now or in the future. Now we don't have any opposition at all. I think every neighbor that's contacted me has been positive and enthusiastic. However, I wanted to make sure that we don't have any problems in the future. And I had a meeting via Zoom a couple days ago with the field school, and they gave me a nice plan going forward if there is opposition, that we can try to work this out before that complaint escalates any further. And I'm fully confident that they will do that. And so therefore, I ask for this to be approved by our commission. And I'm sure that there's going to be some questions, but I'm recommending approval of this with no conditions other than what's stated in the letter, of course.
Very good. Any questions? From commissioners first?
I have a comment. One of the things I hear most from a lot of constituents is surrounding field use. And I think us supporting this is important for the broader community. The letter as it stands now, there's lights going to be on this field that will allowed to be turned on by 9 p.m. I doubt they'll be turned on at 9 p.m. every single night. But I think that this will allow field to do all of their programming and allow groups to come in and do practice. And also in the letter is a specific mention for MacArthur High School. As people know, it's a high school that doesn't have a regulation field. And if we can find some local fields for them to have some home games, which the field school has told us they are absolutely open to in an enthusiastic way, I think that this is just going to be a win, a huge win for the community. I'll be supporting.
Thank you.
Any other commissioners before we go to community members? Yes, Commissioner Elkins.
I just wanted to echo what Commissioner Simkowitz said about the cooperation in the school by the school with the ANC. Very thorough interaction, responsiveness, going forward to in a proactive way to engage us and to make sure that all the concerns were taken care of, and particularly doing that with the neighbors, which of course was our focus as well. And so I think I want to give them a shout out for being so proactive. And it's the kind of interaction with the ANC that we look forward to with other institutions as well.
Very good. Any other commissioners before I go to the community? Mr. Clarkson?
Hey, this is William Clarkson, Spring Valley Neighborhood Association. I just want to thank the commissioners, JP, Tricia, Chuck, Marilyn, others, the whole commission, as well as the field school for opening up the field. I mean, when I read the existing BZA order, it was effectively prohibited, as JP said, prohibited the school from renting or donating field time to outside groups or other schools, such as the MacArthur High School. And so I really think this is a great step forward. There are so many kids across the city, but particularly in the adjacent neighborhoods, in homes right next to Foxhall, right next to this field, that who travel hours every week or weekend to get to games because there's such a dearth of usable athletic fields in DC. So just thank you to the ANC and to the field school. I hope someone from St. Patrick's is on the line and I hope this can be a model for them next, because they've got a phenomenal facility. And my understanding is they've been prohibited from an order from years past from doing a similar thing with their field. So I think this is a step in the right direction. There's a lot of support from the neighbors, and thank you again.
Absolutely. Yes, Commissioner Simkowitz?
Yes, I think that this, Mr. Clarkson, will be the model moving forward whenever we get a new application from a school. Those former proposals that prohibited field usage was crazy, because every little kid needs a field to play on, and we just took our fields off the market, and that was disgusting. And I'd like to thank Nick Keenan as well, because his role at Stoddard Soccer in the past was really helpful to me when I was working on this issue. So thank you to Mr. Keenan as well.
Let me recognize Nick Keenan. His hand was raised, and I don't see him right now. So maybe his computer has a problem. Does anyone else want to speak about the field school athletic field letter? Because I think that we've got you are.
I see Nick is back.
I'm back.
Go ahead,
Sorry,
Nick.
I had trouble unmuting after all these years. So thank you, Commissioner Horn. Thank you, Commissioner Simkowitz, for the kind words, and thank you all the other commissioners. I'm Nick Keenan. I lived in ANC3D for 22 years. During that time, I've served as president of the Palisades Community Association and also as chair of the youth sports organization, which was then known as DC Stoddard Soccer, and is now known as just DC Soccer. But I'm not appearing today on behalf of any organizations, just as a concerned citizen. During my time with Stoddard Soccer, I learned that sports are very important to this community. At that time, and I have no reason to believe that things have materially changed since then, about half of the participants in organized youth sports in the district played soccer, and about 85% of soccer players were registered through Stoddard. And the ANC with the most players in the entire city was our own ANC3D. At any given time, about a quarter of all residents under the age of 18 were playing Stoddard Soccer. About 1 in 10 adults in ANC3D was the parent of a player. And about 2/3 of children in ANC3D played Stoddard Soccer at some time during their childhood. As chair, my primary concern was finding field space for everyone to play. There aren't enough fields of any kind to accommodate all the players who live here. In my time, we played home games all over the district and as far away as Rockville and Germantown, Maryland. Our neighborhood is a net exporter of players to the rest of the district and to the surrounding area. So even though my kids are grown and I'm no longer actively involved, I see the importance of anything that makes the pie bigger. The last time that we went through this process with field overlapped with my time as chair of Stoddard. And at that time, I was a proponent of lifting all restrictions on the renting of the field to outside groups. ANC3D and the school reached an agreement to do that, but the BZA, for reasons known only to itself, saddled us with the restrictions we currently have. I'm here tonight to encourage the ANC and field school to try again to open up access. To address a point that Commissioner Duncan raised earlier about community concerns about other fields in the area, my experience is that schools, which are built out to handle the traffic and parking of hundreds of people every day, are much better suited to handle the load from field use than the rec centers, which generally are not built out that way. And finally, I want to echo something that Commissioner Simkowitz said about the process for addressing concerns should they arise, and that I agree with his feeling that the field school has been a good neighbor and that the process works. And so we shouldn't be afraid of hypothetical concerns when there are real concerns about access to field space. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Commissioner Duncan?
I would like to suggest to Mr. Keenan that perhaps the PCA submit some testimony to the BZA, because I think that it's been a while since I've heard those statistics about the exportation of athletics, because I think it might be nice for the BZA and the Office of Planning to know how this community feels about field space in general.
Okay.
I would encourage that.
I will
would be
talk
happy
with
to
the-
encourage you that.
So I see in the chat, someone just said March 5th for the,
Perhaps someone from field school can tell us when the BZA is.
The hearing, this is Sherry with the hearing is on March 5th, and I can follow up with Mr. Clarkson and Mr. Case about specific information about the hearing.
Could you hear that, Dave?
I didn't hear that actually.
It's March 5th, and she's going to follow up with you and Mr. Clarkson. For some reason, Miss Rutherford, your mic is garbly.
I'll try a different one.
There you go.
Okay, sorry about that.
Very good.
And
Well-
while I have the mic for just one moment, we gave our full presentation last month. I do just want to mention some of the changes that were made. They are reflected in the letter, but just to make sure it's clear to everyone, there were some concerns about a retaining wall that was around the perimeter of the field near some neighboring properties because of the track that was part of our original plan. That track has been removed from the plan to alleviate the need for that retaining wall to address the neighbors' concerns. We've also updated our lighting plan to have a significantly, a lower foot candle, still safe and providing a appropriate for activity and play, but it creates a much lower spread of light spill to outside the field and really does not impact the neighboring property. So I just want to mention those two changes. The Innovation Center, which is really the crux of this project, stays as is. And the retaining walls that are remaining are really internal to campus and do not impact any other of the surrounding neighbors. So I just wanted to mention that. Again, it's all noted in your letter, but I just want to make it clear for the record that those changes have been made since we were here last.
Very good.
I hate to prolong, but I don't think that there's any opposition to this, but Commissioner Simkowitz, are you going to be available to testify in case it's needed before the BZA?
I am if it's needed, and if anybody else wants to do that, they're more than welcome to in my place, any other commissioner.
Perhaps we can leave it open if it's necessary and who's available.
Yeah, I'm available. I put it on my calendar, so I'm ready to go.
Great.
Very good. Any other questions or comments about this? So I'd like to have a vote. All in favor of the letter for Field School Athletic Field? Aye.
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 Okay, it looks unanimous. Let's move on to 5010 V Street. This is a case before the BZA. It is in my single member district. But if there is someone here, Martin Sullivan or someone from his office is here, they could explain it. Yes, I see Marty Sullivan is here. Yes, could you please explain what's happening at 5010 V Street Northwest? And but we don't need a whole lot. I don't think there's going to be a great opposition.
Well, if I can share, I'll show you the site plan and an elevation real quick.
Exactly.
Okay. Let me make sure my volume's up here. Okay. So okay. I'll start with a photo. If everybody sees this, here's the subject property here pointed out. The addition's going to be to the, well, this is technically the front of the building for zoning purposes, but it reads as the rear. The front entrance is on the other side. And the addition to that is going to be, here's the easiest way to see it on the plat. It's going to go out to the line of the building on one side, and not as far as the building on the other side, because this building goes out to here. We have letters of support from both of these adjacent neighbors. And the relief requested is side yard because this is in the R1 zone. So there's an 8-foot side yard requirement or a 5-foot extension of a side yard requirement or extension of an existing side yard. And because it's a row house, there's going to be 0 side yard. So that's the main relief. The other one's pervious surface because the lot occupancy is going up by more than 10%. We're required to comply with pervious surface requirement, but we're not changing the pervious surface as it exists, but it's already over. It's at 62%. The impervious is at 62. So we're asking for special exception relief from that, which is under the same standard as the special exception for the side yard. And a quick, I'll show you. There's an elevation. It's 2-story addition. So I think that's it. And I think Luna Howard, the owner, is here tonight too, if you have any questions for her.
Yes, Commissioner Duncan.
I had just have a very quick question. So where this addition is going is already impervious surface underneath, like a concrete patio or
Correct.
something?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yes.
terrific. I'll be in support.
Is there anyone else want to speak to this? If not, I will ask for a vote on my letter, which would be in favor of these special exceptions. All in favor? 7 votes in favor. Let's move on to 48th Place Crosswalk, which is also in my SMD. You know that 48th Place is the street where the Palisades Farmers Market is. And it connects to V Street, where the Fitzgerald construction is. And when there was a Safeway, there was no sidewalk on either side of 48th Place along V Street. But as part of the construction of the Fitzgerald, there has been built a sidewalk all the way from V Street to MacArthur and all the way from on V Street from 48th Place to MacArthur and on V Street from 48th Place more than halfway to 48th Street. So obviously people are going to be crossing this street, and yet there is no crosswalk. So this is a letter to the Department of Transportation asking them to declare this to be a place for a crosswalk, and that will require curb ramps, which have not been built there. And we're going to be asking them to move quickly, because once the Fitzgerald opens, we're going to need this desperately. I'm sorry, I should have said, is there a second? See, I broke my own rule. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Is there discussion? Anybody else?
I'm gonna be in full support. This has been a bee in my bonnet for as long as it's been a bee in your bonnet, Bernie. This is the least they can do. I am not 100% sure if DDOT can force the Fitzgerald to do it, but I hope that they do. And if they don't, they have enough shame that they'll do it themselves. That's how I feel. This is literally next to a home where people are expected to be in wheelchairs. And there are no curb cuts here.
Okay. Seeing no other comments, all in favor of the letter concerning 48th Place Crosswalk? 7 votes for. Let's move on to the bottle return bill. Commissioner Elkins, I hope you won't break my rule the way I just did. Commissioner Elkins, can you make a motion about the bottle return bill?
Yes, I was prepared this time to do it correctly. Did not need to remind me. I am introducing a letter in support of a bottle bill, which is before the council, and I'm asking for a second.
A second, yes.
Mr. Chairman, I think I'm going to be able to show my slides. I'm not on my home computer and things are sort of crazy here, but let me see. What I'd like to show some slides here to sort of give the presentation of why we need a bottle bill. You've got them there yourself. Good. So some of you know that in my spare time, let's see, let's start with the title here. The title up the top, yeah. But it's showing more than one slide here. See if we can do that, fix that. Let me try sharing my screen instead, Mr. Chairman. Let me see if it comes out any differently, okay?
Okay.
Okay. I was going to show you, you can hit that icon that shows the thumbnails and then it does one slide at a time.
Where is that?
So it's over to the left. right next to slide, hit that. Do thumbnails, and if you click a thumbnail on the right, it should just show one. Oh, it's not.
Let me try on mine and see if that works. Okay. Can I share, Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Is that showing or not? Let's see. Who can?
It is now.
It is not
Yeah,
showing.
we can see it well. Yeah, it looks good.
Okay.
All right. Now, can people see people over plastic? Can everybody see that slide? Okay. Well, some of you know that in my spare time, I'm the executive director of the EPA Alumni Association, and during COVID, we started an academy set of presentations, and one of our recent presentations was by Ms. Ant, who is a former senior official at EPA, who gave a presentation on people over plastic. And I thought some of her slides were quite supportive of this decision that we need to make tonight. And so normally I would not show somebody else's slides like this because I wouldn't be sure that they were accurate. In this case, I am sure of that because of her reputation for accuracy. Let's see if I can figure out how to move my slide. Here we are. So not surprising to most of you, the United States is only number 2 in the world for using more single-use plastic. We only have 4% of the population, but we generate 12% of all the solid waste, and we produce 116 pounds of single-use plastic waste per person in 2019. So we do have a problem in this country. Plastic is really coming into its own, shall we say. 50%, more than 50% of the plastics that have ever been produced have been produced since the year 2000, and you can see a forecast there of where it might go by 2050. One of the things that's happening, of course, as you know, across the country is that pressure is being placed on the fossil fuel industry to get out of the energy production business, and including fueling cars. And their plan B is to move even more of their production into plastic production in order to keep their income up. Because, of course, as you know, plastics are made from petroleum. Oops, let's see if I can move that up. This means that plastics is a climate change issue, and you'll see that the amount of plastics generated by the industry in the United States today is equal to the equivalent of the annual emissions of 116 coal-fired power plants. Those power plants are being phased out, as you know, across the country, but we are replacing them with plastics. 30 billion pounds of plastics go into our oceans annually. Most of this is from land. You might think, well, most of the plastic is being thrown off a ship. No, most of it is going down our sewers, into our rivers, and down into, in our case, the Chesapeake Bay, and then out into the ocean. And of course, it's not going in necessarily whole bottles. They break down and turn, as you'll see in a minute, break down to other things. An estimate by the World Economic Forum, not a far left group, estimates that by 2050, there will be 1 pound of plastic for every pound of fish in the ocean in this world. These plastics break down into microplastics. You can see some of the shapes that they take. And if you take a look at this bird that was caught, you can see all these plastics inside this bird. It's no secret, I think you already know this, that birds and fish ingest plastic thinking it's food. Here's a startling thought that relates to this bottle bill. A recent study found that a liter of water in bottled water contains 240,000 detectable plastic fragments. This is 10 to 100 times greater than previous estimates. I think we need to find out more whether this is the real, whether this number continues to be found across additional studies. I don't want to make too much of this one study, but this is certainly disturbing. In our discussion at the seminar that she was producing, someone found a study that showed that the average found in tap water is about 5 fragments. So 5 versus 240,000. We don't know much about what's happening with these microplastics in our bodies, but they are collecting in all kinds of places, as you can see. And if you read the Washington Post the other day, they are collecting in our brain as well. In our brain, according to that study in the Washington Post, it was about the equivalent of a plastic teaspoon that's in our brain. Now, we don't know what this is doing to us, and I don't want to overemphasize the health effects. The trouble is, because we don't know what the health effects are, and it's going to be a long time, I think, before we really know, because normally when you try to find out what a chemical is doing to the body, it helps to have a control group, somebody who has not been exposed to the chemical or product, and therefore you can compare those who were exposed against those who have not been exposed. Well, there's no control group in the world because we are all exposed to it. So that's the end of my slides. Don't mean to be overly dramatic, but there is a need for us to do something about single-use plastics. And what we found out from this briefing from these people at Beyond Plastics is most plastics are not recycled, including most single-use bottles that we're used to are not recycled. That in fact, the one place where they really are significantly recycled is in those cases where there is a bottle return system in which these bottles can be gathered in an economic manner and provided to a recycler who can turn them from a single use to a multiple use product. What I have written here for your consideration is a letter to the council. The council has introduced a bill which they are now considering, which basically calls for the setting up of a return system in which we would all pay something like 10 cents every time we get one of these bottles. And then when someone returns that bottle, whether it's us or someone else who is collecting them, they get the 10 cents back. You can imagine the setting up of a system in which all the merchants who sell bottles across this city need to be able to charge you the 10 cents and be able to take them back. It is a complicated issue. And so you'll notice that the letter which I have written does not endorse the specifics about how this system should be set up. I think that needs to be debated, discussed rather, in the council by people who are going to be affected, namely merchants. They need to have an input, and I'm sure they will. And hopefully the council can come up with a sensible approach. And I felt that we were not in a position to endorse necessarily the way in which it's set up in this bill. I do add some paragraphs that suggest that it might be useful, if it's possible, to phase in this program, because this is a fairly complex program to implement. And government is famous for trying to implement too much at one time. You may remember the website for the Affordable Care Act, which in my mind, the act was a wonderful act, is a wonderful act, but the starting up of the program was a real disaster with the website because it couldn't handle the traffic. And I consider that that might be a possible here. And we don't want this program to fail simply because we try to do too much at one time. And I give it as an example. I just finished with this. I give it an example, what I think is an excellent program that the district is running on the food composting program. I know how many of you are participating in that. I think only about 15,000 people across the district are participating. It is efficient. It works. Everybody, it comes on time. And they give you back some compost at the end of the year. And I think its success is based on the fact that they didn't try to do the entire district all at one time. So I'm asking for comments on this letter and hope that we can approve it tonight. Thank you.
Yes, Commissioner Nowak.
Thank you, Commissioner Elkins, for your letter and for your work on this effort. I will be supporting the letter, though I do have some pause, specifically as it relates to your suggestion around the phasing. I think that phasing is the right thing to do. I'm not at all in love with the idea of doing it one ward at a time. For 8 wards, there are 85 reasons why nobody wants the first ward, nobody wants to be the last ward. So I would ask if you would accept a friendly amendment that we just take out that sentence where you suggest that 1 or 2 wards phase in, while keeping the spirit of the content that phasing is the way to do it.
If that is the sense of the commission, I would not have any problem with that. So I see no objection to that, so I would accept that as a friendly amendment. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Very good. Anyone else want to speak on this?
Just to say thank you.
Yes.
Well, and get yourself a reusable bottle.
Okay, so before the commission is the question of whether to support this letter. All in favor? All opposed?
I support, not oppose.
All right, seven in favor. Very good. Let's move to MacArthur High School holiday construction hours. Commissioner Nowak.
Commissioners, we spoke about this last month. It is standard practice when there's construction happening in the neighborhood that the construction team ask for an exemption from the rule that says they cannot work on DC holidays. Last month, we passed a resolution with a letter to that end. The DCPS construction team came back with some rather specific language that they wanted to add to the letter, which went beyond what we had approved last month. I think that they erred doing this because this restricts them further than they need to be restricted. They had more leeway to do what they wanted last month, but if they want more restrictive language, then we're happy to provide it. So I guess I should have asked for a second, but if I could have a second on this revised letter, please.
Second.
Any discussion or questions?
No, we handled this last month, so all in favor? 7 in favor. Let's move to increase in mandatory car insurance. Commissioner Simkowitz.
Thank you, Chairperson Horn. 5 years ago, in 2020, I introduced a bill to increase the mandatory minimums for insurance. ANC3D, to my knowledge, passed it unanimously, but it was never acted on by the council. Commissioner Elkins sent me an email a couple weeks ago that said, "Hey, guess what? The council's introducing your idea, and it is known as the Motor Vehicle Insurance Modernization Amendment Act of 2024, B25-0810. Why is this important? If someone gets in a car accident today and the negligent driver, injures you, the mandatory minimum is only $25,000 that they're required to have. So a mandatory minimum of $25,000 doesn't cover 2 days in the hospital, maybe not even 1 day. So Chairman Mendelson, who is the council member that's introducing this bill, said, it's out of touch with inflation. This was last done in the 1980s. So for almost 40 years, we've had the same mandatory minimum. And Chairperson Mendelson said, this is just inexcusable. And therefore, I ask that this commission approve my resolution in support of Chairperson Mendelson's act. And I believe this commission, we've acted on this before. I don't know what's going to happen, but certainly adding our voice will move this to a reality.
Very good. And I will second that. Does anyone have any discussion? No? Oh, yes, Commissioner Elkins.
I was just going to encourage my fellow commissioner that, in fact, I was alerted to this by the, I think, former head of the Trial Lawyers Association in DC. I was talking to him about something else. So I think he was really hoping that we would pass a letter. And so apparently there are a number of people who are in favor of this, including a large number of lawyers who I think practice as you do in the district and who realize these levels are ridiculous.
Well, I sent around an email to the commissioners yesterday, giving a story about how this plays out in many cases. Imagine you're a college student who graduates from college and moves to DC from some other state. You're no longer living in your parents' house. They're no longer paying for your car insurance because you don't live there. You move to DC, you don't need a car, so you have no insurance of your own. You're walking down the street and you get hit by a car and they put you in the hospital for a couple days. You could be bankrupted yourself through no fault of your own if it weren't for, sometimes hospitals waive the cost when they realize that it's not somebody's fault that they got in an accident. But you shouldn't have to rely on the charity of somebody else when really the bad drivers should be paying for their own negligent actions. So that's why I've seen this in my own law practice, and it's a real big problem.
And you may remember that Officer McElwee told us that the highest fine that you can get for hitting a pedestrian is $500 in this city. Doesn't get you very far. Might as well hit some more of these pedestrians.
And Commissioner Elkins, a fine would go to the city. It wouldn't go to the victim.
That's right. It goes to the city and not to the college student.
But if you are hit and you incur hospital bill, it's easily in the $25,000 range if you have to be there overnight. And if you need, physical therapy, if you lose wages, that's really drastic and can force you to go back home to live with your parents, which no 23-year-old kid wants to do. Although I'm living in my parents' house right now because my house is under construction, so it's kind of sucks personally. But I'm lucky that I have parents that I can do that.
Is there any other discussion? All right, all in favor of this letter about increase in mandatory car insurance?
Aye.
7 votes in favor. Let's move from official actions to commission business. Approval of the Go Vocal contract, Commissioner Elkins.
Well, I'm happy to say that the General Counsel of OANC, having reviewed this contract at some length, has now provided comments, and those changes were negotiated with the contractor, Go Vocal, and now our fellow commissions, 4 of them total, if we count ourselves, are signing on to have Go Vocal. And so I have sent the contract around, and I'm asking for a second to consider consideration of it.
There's a second? There's a second. Commissioner Duncan, yes.
Just to remind you, we do have a contract with District Engage, which is an Australian company, and it ends in May. And so this contract is a little different from the other ANCs. The other ANCs are having their year start in February, but ours will start in May, so that we are not paying double for this service from two different companies. But they have agreed that we can undergo training with the other ANCs. And I would hope that a number of you will agree to take this training. I think you will find that it is a useful kind of software, and you will not want to depend on somebody else to put up your project. So I'm hoping that I don't have the details yet, but when I do, I will provide it to everyone here. So I think Commissioner Duncan and I probably will almost definitely take the training since we took the training on the other service. And then the intent would be that if we do sign this contract, then during the period between now and May, we would move over anything we wanted to move over from District Engaged, and we would inform them that we were not redoing the contract. And so on May 1, we would be able to start up, and I think our constituents would not see much of a interruption in service. So I'm asking whether there are any questions and whether we'd like to approve this contract.
Anyone want to speak? Yes.
I'll be voting in support. I think that we have had a lot of success with this type of software, and this Go Vocal is better than the one we've been using.
Very good. Anyone else? Let's vote. All in favor? 7 votes in favor. It passes. Let's move to the treasurer report. Commissioner Elkins.
Well, we have the quarterly financial report this month. I wonder, is Catherine here to bring this up for us to see? I'm happy to say that Commissioner Nowak actually prepared this. I very much appreciate her carrying over and her duties or voluntarily to help me get this done. I haven't learned the ropes thoroughly yet. What we find here is almost all the money. As you've seen, $1,900 was provided for our contract for our administrator. About $200 was for the transcript service, and otherwise, and we have gotten 2 allotments, which total about half of our money. You'll see came in this time. And we have about $45,000 in savings. Can we see the other page just so people can? Well, the next document. Yeah, this is just the signatures. There's another document that's related here, if you can find that. I would be showing it, but I'm not at my own computer. It's frustrating when you don't have all your files. This is my wife's computer. She's been very conscious, very nice to let me share it tonight. Drove her out of the room. Here we are. So you can see that there are a number of checks there to Catherine. And then the one that you see there to Marilyn is actually the way she was paying our transcriber. So it wasn't, the money wasn't really going to Maryland, it was going to our transcriber, Mr. Handog. And that's basically how we've been spending our money during the last quarter. Any questions?
Seeing no questions, do I have a motion to approve the treasurer's report?
Second.
Make a motion to that, yes, okay.
All in favor? The treasurer's report is approved. The next is approval of minutes. Commissioner Nowak?
I circulated the minutes from our January meeting, and having heard no feedback from our commissioners, I assume that you are in agreement that it's correct. So I would ask, I will so move to have those approved. If I can please have a second.
I second. Yeah.
All right. So then we'll move the question. Can we vote?
Yes.
To approve this?
Vote on that. All in favor of approving the minutes? 7 votes. That's it. It's approved. So the last thing to do is to notice the next meeting, which is March 5th. And we'll do it the same way, that is virtually. And if no one else has anything, we'll adjourn. Anyone have anything before we adjourn? Yes.
Yeah, I've spoke with somebody in the mayor's office about inviting the mayor to one of our meetings, and I think we ought to extend that invitation to Chairman Mendelson and the Attorney General to have in the next year. I mean, there's no pressing time for it. Meetings with the Chairperson Mendelson, the mayor, and the Attorney General all on separate days, because they each do separate things for the district. And I think that they would enjoy the opportunity to speak to their constituents. And I think that our constituents would like to speak to them. And if the constituents never have a easy way to talk to these people, I think it's bad for democracy. And, what I'd recommend is that if we do this, we ask for their timetables and try to squeeze them in at certain points during the year, and have an in-person meeting, because I think that you would have a lot of people there going to ask their questions. It's not something we need to do today, but I think we should, ask those people if they would be willing to come out here and talk to us.
Commissioner Elkins?
There's one other topic I would introduce here, and that is that there has been some discussion in the new federal administration that perhaps the home rule law in the district should be suspended, and the district be put under some kind of supervision. I think, of course, I'm not sure how the provision would be written, but I think it's likely that ANCs would no longer be functioning, nor would the city council. It's my view, which I will promote across the district, that since we commissioners don't get paid, that it doesn't really matter in terms of the time we spend, whether or not the home rule law is in effect. We, of course, would not be able to spend any money to ask Catherine to help us or have our meetings transcribed. We would have to switch to a private Zoom account. But I will be suggesting, if that happens, and boy, I hope it doesn't happen, but who knows, suggesting to ANC commissioners across the city that those who feel so inclined continue to serve their neighborhood. I suspect that most of the issues that we deal with are not of such monumental concern to the federal executive that we could not communicate to, let's say, the Department of Transportation that we needed a new stop sign here, or that we'd like to have a sidewalk or a crosswalk built here. And so therefore, I think our services might well be needed, but that would be an individual decision by every commissioner. And so I'm not asking whether you would be interested in that. I'm just announcing that maybe before we meet next time, it's always possible that this could happen. This federal administration is going very quickly, and they, close the doors at the USAID and plan to do so for the Department of Education. Probably EPA will be next. And at some point, the district may come up on their radar. I just wanted to plant that idea so you can be thinking about it. So thank you, Mr. Chairman, for the opportunity to depress everybody.
Yes. Does anyone else have anything before we adjourn?
I would like to note that it's 9:12. Well done, Chairman Horn.
Yes.
Thank you. Well, hearing no one objecting, the meeting is adjourned at 9:12.
Yes, and thank you, Catherine.
Thank you, Catherine. Good night, all.
My pleasure.
Hi.
Good night.